Hello everyone, welcome to another training session with Laurel Bellissimo, and in this session I'll be teaching you how to cut male senator top. And I'm cutting for a 5-year-old boy, and this is the fabric I'll be using. I'll also be using this Ankara fabric to design the top. These are the measurements that we will need for this top. The chest, which is the body of the person, is 28 inches. Then the back, which is the shoulder, 10 inches. The length of the sleeve is 6 inches. It's going to be a short sleeve, and the round sleeve is 11 inches. So let's dive into it. The first thing to do is to start with the chest measurements of the person, and we have 28 inches. So we are going to divide 28 inches by 2, which is 14 inches. So that means half of 28 inches is 14 inches. So for the front, we will have 14 inches. That's for the front panel. But we are going to add sewing allowance to that 14 inches. That will be an inch at one side and an inch at the other side, making 2 inches. So what I'm going to do now is to add 2 inches to 14, and that's 16 inches. So we have 16 inches for the front panel. So we divide 16 inches into 2 again because I'm folding it into 2. So 16 inches into 2, we have 8 inches. All right, that's 8 inches. And we also have 8 inches here. So the next thing is to measure the length. So I'm going to measure 20 inches this way. That's 20 inches. I'm connecting the marks. So this is what we need for the front panel. I'm going to cut it out now. All right, so we have the front out now. Notice that when we folded the right side inside. So this is the rear side. So I'm just going to mark it to note that it is the rear side. So the next thing to do now is to cut the back panel of the top. For the back panel, I'm folding the same width out, exactly the same width. So because this is the way I cut the front panel, so I cut it from the edge of the cloth. I also want the second part to be at the edge of the cloth. That's why I turned it this way. So I'm going to put it at the edge this way, exactly the same width. All right, so I have exactly the same width now. There's something about the back panel. The back panel should be 3 inches longer than the front panel. If it were to be an adult, I'll use 4 inches, but because I'm making this top for a kid, I'll use 3 inches. So it will be 3 inches longer than the front panel. So I'll just add 3 inches to it. I'll connect the marks together. All right, so I've cut the back panel, and this is the front panel. The back panel is 3 inches longer than the front panel. Now I'll start working on the front panel. The first thing to do is to curve out the neck. The neck of the boy I'm sewing for is 12 inches. The neck calculation goes thus: neck divided by 6. Then we subtract 0.3 inches. In this case, it is 12 divided by 6, which is 2. 2 minus 0.3 is 1.7. So I'll mark 1.7 for the width of the neck. 1.7 inches. For the depth of the neck, the calculation is neck width plus 0.5 inches. So that means what we marked here, then we add 0.5 inches to it. In this case, it is 1.7 inches plus 0.5 inches is 2.2 inches. So I'll mark 2.2 for the depth here. So I have 2.2 inches. So I'll just curve the neck out that way. I'm sure you can see that now. So we have the neck curved out. The next thing to do is to draw the shoulder slant. The shoulder slant is actually 2 inches, because the shoulder is always a slant in everyone. There's no shoulder that is perfectly straight, so we have a slant. So that's why I'm bringing down 2 inches slant here. So after bringing down the 2 inches slant, let me draw the slant first. The slant will be from the neck point. This is the neck point. Can you see our slant? Another thing that we will do is insert the shoulder measurement. Our shoulder measurement is 10 inches, and we divide 10 inches by 2, which is 5 inches. Always divide the shoulder by 2, and we have 5 inches. So we had, instead of measuring 5 inches, we had 0.5 sewing allowance. So I'll measure out 5.5 inches now. I'm starting from those points. Can you see? I'm starting from this point, and I'll measure 5.5 inches for our shoulder. I'll measure on the shoulder slant. Okay, so this is our shoulder point, and from our shoulder point we are going to measure the armhole. The next thing is to construct the armhole, and for the armhole measurements we have 12 inches. Remember that you would also divide the armhole by 2. So 12 inches divided by 2 is 6 inches. So instead of measuring 6 inches here, you will subtract 3 inches from 6 inches. The back panel is longer than the front panel. So these 3 inches that we are removing now, the back panel will cover up for it. So instead of measuring 6 inches for a armhole, I'm going to measure 3 inches. Do you get that? I'm going to measure 3 inches now, and I'll add 0.5 inch sewing allowance. So now I'm just going to form a straight line first before I cover out the armhole. I'll draw a very straight line from this point, and also a straight line from this shoulder point too. After that, I'll carve out the armhole. Can you see that? Now our armhole is ready. So I'm just going to cut this curve like this, and I'm also going to cut out the neck curve and the shoulder slant. Now you see the front part of our senator top. Now the next thing to work on is the back panel. So now you place the front panel on the back panel. You know the back panel is longer, so the first thing to do is to first cut the shoulder slant of the back. So this is it. This is what I have here. You cut the shoulder slants of the back. So that means the shoulder slants of the back will be something like this. Just trace out the slants of the front to that of the back too. So I've completed the slant. So don't start from here. Just start from where the shoulder slant starts from. So I'll start from the neck point here, and I'll cut out the back slant. We have to move this front panel up so that we'll be able to cut our shoulder slant. So the next thing to do now is return it to the base. Let the base of the front and the base of the back be on each other. Can you see that? So now the next thing to do is to carve out the neck of the back. After making sure that the bases are equal, the next thing to do is to carve out the neck of the back. And how do we carve out the neck of the back? You just fold it like this. Can you see that? Fold it this way. The folding will stop at ½ inch, so it's better you measure ½ inch from the top of the front. ½ inch, ½ inch. So when you are folding the back panel on it, make sure it doesn't exceed this ½ inch. So you stop where the ½ inch stops. So after folding on the ½ inch you marked, the next thing to do is to trace out the neck of the back. So I'll just use chalk to trace it out before I use scissors to cut it off. So you trace it like this. Can you see? Like a continuation of this curve from the front. Can you see that? So that's what we are going to cut out now. So I'll just use my scissors to start this way. You see what I cut now? So I'll just open it up to finish it up. You know I have my tracing already, but the scissors will not just go doing it this way. So I'll open it up and continue this way to finish the curve. Nice. Can you see that? The back neck curve is not as deep as the front neck curve. Can you see that? So we have our back neck curve here. If I close it again, you see that I've traced out the place I marked in the first instance. So when you look at this curve, it must be perfectly curved for you to have a nice top. So I have a perfect curve here already. So the next thing to do now is to fold it again. So curve it again on the ½ inch mark that we made here. So after curving it again, can you see? So now it's time to trace out the armhole for the back too. You know I told you that the armhole for the back will cover up for the one that we reduced at the front. Now, I'm going to cut it now. So how do we cut it? What you do is just to extend the one from the front to the back this way. And we start cutting like this. So you follow the curve of the armhole in the front to cut it out. So by the time we get on the sewing machine and we join the back and the front together, we will have our original 12 inches armhole measurement. Now that we have our front panel and our back panel ready, the next thing to do is to cut sleeves for the top. So now it's time to cut the sleeves. So the next thing to do is to fold the fabric, and this is the fabric we have here. First of all, you consider the measurement of the armhole, and in this case the measurement of the armhole is 12 inches. So 12 inches divided by 2 is 6 inches. Now I will add 1 inch sewing allowance. That's 6 inches plus 1. That gives us 7 inches. So I'll fold this fabric by 7 inches. Now I have it folded by 7 inches. The length of our sleeve is 6 inches. I'll add 2 inches sewing allowance to it. That gives us 8 inches. So I'll measure 8 inches length. And I'll connect the lines together. Okay, so now that I have the lines together, this is what I'm going to do. You know I have 7 inches fold here, and I will divide the line by 2. That will give us 3.5 inches. We have 3.5 inches. We are cutting 2 sleeves. I just cut this square out, and we are going to place this square on this place. Alright, because I'm cutting 2 sleeves, so this is 1. I'm placing it on the second fold. Alright, so I have the 2 equal. Now I can continue with my measurement. So now measure 3 inches down. For an adult, I'll measure 4 inches. But because this is for a child, I'll measure 3 inches down. So you draw a slant across from this edge to this 3 inches. So you find the center point of this slant, like this is the main center, but for each slant in the box, you will find half inch. You find half of this and half of this. Measure 0.5 inches up here. Find the half of this one too. And measure 3.5 inches down. So this is up and down. So you can now form your curve. Make sure your curve passes through this center. It passes on this half inch, passes through the center, then it comes down on this half inch and goes back to this place. Can you see that now? The round sleeve is also 12 inches, so you divide it by 2, which is 6. Then you add 1 inch sewing allowance to it, which makes it 7. So I'll finish from this point to this point. Then we'll follow the curve to cut it out. So we can now notch the center of the top of the sleeve for easy placement when sewing. See what I did? I notched it so that when we open, I can place it easily where I notched. Now back to our front panel. We are going to have a zipper front, as you see in the style. So the next thing to do now is to create space for the zipper, and I'm also designing this zipper with Ankara before I add it to the front panel. So now I'm going to fold the front panel into 2. Size of my zipper is 8 inches. I'm measuring the useful part of the zip and it is 8 inches. So I'm just going to measure 7 inches down from this part. That's 7 inches down. I will now go in here by 1 inch. And 1 inch at the upper part too. So I'll just curve it out like this. And bring it up to the other 1 inch. So this is where I will attach the zipper already fixed with fabric. This is where I will attach it to. So I'm cutting it out now. Follow the curve. So this is what we have. Now we are going to cut the zipper with Ankara. I've cut 2 pieces of fabric now. The next thing is to attach it to this zipper this way. So this is what I'm going to do. I would go over to the sewing machine and attach this fabric to the side of the zipper like this and open it up this way. Can you see? I would also turn this way around too to sew it, and it will come out this way. At the end of the day, it's only the zipper latch that I want to see. These 2 fabric would have covered this side of the zipper. So I'm going over to do that now. Okay, I'm done fixing the zipper. See the way it looks? So this is the way I fixed it on both sides. So the seam is not showing because I joined it inside the way I explained. Can you see that? On both sides. So the zipper is nicely fixed like this. The next thing to do is now to fold this fabric close to where the zipper is the first time, then fold it the second time. I'd also do that for the second part too. it must not cover the zipper for easy opening. So when I turn it to the front, this is the way it looks. Can you see? So this is the way I'm going to place it. So I'll make sure I have 1¼ inch on both sides of the zipper. I mean 1¼ inch of fabric on both sides of the zipper. So I'll go over to the electric iron and press it well, so that I'll have 1/4 inch here and 1/4 inch here. So the remaining part at the back, I'll just hem it. I won't use it to cover the zipper. I'll make sure I just use needle and thread to hem it on the zipper in such a way that it will not show outside. This is how it looks at the front. The next thing I want to do now is to use bias. This is bias. I'll use it to tape the edges round like this. So I'll put it inside and close it in this way. I'll close it in this way and just sew it round in one stitch. I'm done fixing bias around this space. So the next thing is to bring this zipper with fabric inside like this way and sew it round neatly. Now I've fixed the zipper with fabric. Can you see that? And this is how it looks at the back. So the next thing to do now is to combine it to the back panel. And this is how we do that. We'll make the right side to face the right side, the right side of the front panel to face the right side of the back panel. And I'll just sew this shoulder slant and also the second shoulder slant too. I've stitched the two shoulder slants together, and remember the back is longer than the front, so we turn it the other way around, and this is how it looks the other way around. So you pull it in such a way that the bases are equal, the down parts of the top are equal. Can you see that? So now it leaves the top like this. After positioning them neatly like this, I'll go ahead to notch this part, this folded part, because that's where the notched part of our sleeve will start from. So I'm going to notch it. I'll come over to this other side too, making sure the bases are equal. And I'll also notch this part. Alright, so the next thing is to fix our sleeves on this notched part. Now I'm done joining the sleeves, making sure I started from where the two notches are. I joined the notches together and I sewed the sleeves round. This one too, the notches are together and I sewed the sleeves round. So the next thing now is to close this top up this way, making sure the base is equal. Now remember I added 2 inches sewing allowance for side sewing allowances, so I'm going to take in 1 inch here. I'll sew 1 inch down here, and also at this other side I'll start from the sleeve 1 inch, 1 inch, and I'll take it down. Remember that after joining your sleeves, if you have any excesses, this is the time to trim it. After joining this side, I will do the hemming for both sides this way. Remember I added 2 inches sewing allowance for that. I'll do it on both sides, and after that I can now fix the neck and do the finishing. I have to mention here that this top we have slits on both sides. I started stitching from the sleeve 1 inch down here, then from this base to this point where I stopped is 6 inches. So I left 6 inches for the side slits. I also left 6 inches here too for the side slits. So the next thing now is to go ahead and hem it by 2 inches. So I'll sew it like this. I'll turn the other side too and hem both sides by 2 inches. After doing that, I'll come and open this place up and finish it. Now I've done the hemming for the front and for the back. Then The next thing to do now is open the sides up like this. Then I'll finish the slits at the side of the top. So I'll just do something like this. I'll fold it again into two to hide the rough edges. And I'll stitch straight till I get to where the slit begins. Then I'll turn it like this and bring the sewing round like this, and also do the same thing for this side. Turn it in and finish it up. I'll do that for both sides and show you when I'm done. Make sure you don't sew on the other fabric. You bring it out like this before you start sewing. I've stitched both slits. See the way it looks? So I folded it into two and stitched it straight like this. So when I got to the end of the slit, I brought it this way. Then I now brought it down again. The same thing with the other side too. So when you finish it, make sure both sides are equal. Can you see? The front panel and the back panel are equal. Now I'm going to turn it to the right side. Our top is looking very good. Can you see? The next thing now is to finish the neck of this top. And firstly, we are going to make sure our circle is perfect. So I'm going to trim off the excesses at this zipper side, and I'm going to make it rhyme with this round area. Right now you can bring the zipper down. Then I'm going to trim this excess. Okay, so I've trimmed the neck and I think I'm satisfied with what I'm seeing right now. When you are doing your own, make sure you trim the circles. If you have one that is not really looking very neat, you should trim it and make it a perfect circle. Now I'm going to use this Ankara fabric to also finish the neck. So I'm going to cut it in form of a bias, and I'm going to finish this part up. Now there's a way to cut the fabric to form a bias. So what you should do is just pick a piece of fabric like a rectangular shape, fold it like this diagonally, like one edge touching the other edge, forming like a triangle. Can you see that? So now we will cut this place off. We will cut it after forming a diagonal with it. We will cut this side. So after cutting this side, so I'll measure 2.5 inches before I cut again. So I've measured 2.5 inches from the edge. I measured 2.5, and I'm going to roll it. I've ruled 2.5 inches, and I'm going to cut it out that way. Can you see that? So by the time you pull it, you see that it's stretchy. It's kind of stretchy, which will not be stretchy if we had cut it straight. So the next thing to do now is to fold both sides into two, facing themselves this way. Can you see that? Then I will now close it up this way. And that's the way I'm going to fix it. So let me do that again. You fold both sides into two, facing each other. After folding it into two facing each other, you will now fold it again, making sure that one part is longer than the other, so that when we are fixing it on the neck, it will just, it will be neatly fixed. And when you are sewing on the shorter side, it will just appear on the other side too. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. I'll fold it like this, fold it like this again, then I'll close it up. After closing it up now, I'll go and iron it, making sure one side is shorter and one side is longer. So by the time I'm fixing on my fabric, I'll make sure that the shorter part is at the front like this. So I'll close it up this way. I'll fold it like this. I'll fold it into two. Can you see it's neat now? After folding it into two that way, I'll put it this way. And by the time I ironed it, it would have formed neatly, and I'll just continue to sew till I get to this side. And when I get to that part, I'll fold it in again and finish it up. So I'll fold it in this way, and I'll start from this area. I'll open it up like this, and I'll sew to the end. Now I'm done fixing the neck. The zipper can be pulled up and down as you wish. Now I'm going to give this senator top a good press with electric iron, and I'm going to show you how wonderful the end result is. Thank you for staying tuned. Try and practice yours and let me see how it comes out. Thank you for watching.